Okay, we are live on Facebook. We are live on Zoom. Welcome, 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 everybody. This is the Integrative Wellness and Development Podcast. I am your host, Mike DeLuca, and very excited to have you with us this evening. Very excited to have our guest speaker with us. I always need to start every show letting you know we are going to be talking about some pretty amazing health products and health studies and health experiences that are creating tremendous benefits for people. But you all know that I am required by law to tell you that no statement or made on this show is meant to guarantee that any diagnosis, treatment, or prevention of any illness or health condition is expected or presumed because of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Everybody's experience is unique, but the product and the science behind it are something that has had tremendous benefit for many, many people. This show is Integrative Wellness and Development Show. We are not affiliated with any other group, any other company, any other show. The product that will be shared tonight, we have no formal affiliation with, but as you know, every month I like to share products and guests who have wisdom and information that can help make your life healthier and happier. And certainly the gentleman we're going to be speaking to today has done that in multitudes of times and ways. So with that, I want to welcome everybody here that's joining us on Zoom, and I know there'll be more. I am welcoming also all of you that are joining us on Facebook. We are streaming live on Facebook. The recording of this show, of course, is going to remain on my Facebook page, but it will also be on my YouTube page as the week goes on. So everybody's experience. Yeah. So with that, I am going to introduce you to our guest, and I'm going to share my screen here for a second so that I can move through my PowerPoint and introduce you. Our guest is Dr. Avery Jackson, and the product that Dr. Avery Jackson is a medical advisor to is a product called Cardio Miracle. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dr. Jackson. And Dr. Avery Jackson is a board-certified neurosurgeon. He's the chief medical advisor for the Cardio Miracle Company. His guidance has helped the company help thousands of people to reach new heights of health and well-being. As the author of an amazing book, and I apologize for a second, as an author of The God Prescription, Dr. Jackson has dedicated his career to blending faith and spirituality with science to heal the spirit, mind, and body, a foundational philosophy that guides his work with an organization called the Body Healthcare. With the Body Healthcare, Dr. Jackson is leading a new movement in medicine, one where faith, science, and community come together to offer holistic healing and lasting wellness. You can join us and be a part of the future of healthcare, and that starts tonight with the information you're going to be hearing. At the core of the God Prescription book is the belief that true healing goes beyond physical treatment. It requires addressing the emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects of well-being. Dr. Jackson teaches that by nurturing all three parts of our being, we can overcome stress, anxiety, addiction, and chronic illness, ultimately leading to a healthier and more fulfilled life. And it's because of his commitment to health and well-being that he is agreed to speak to us tonight about Cardio Miracle, about the power of nitric oxide, and the things that go on in our body that affect and improve our cardiovascular health, our neurological health, and our overall health and well-being. So with that long introduction, Dr. Avery Jackson, thank you so much for joining our show and for agreeing to share your wisdom with our audience, both tonight and all the nights to come, for people who watch it on our recording. Welcome so much to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mike. It's an honor.
Well, I have a million questions, and I know the audience does too. First off, I want to start with we talk about nitric oxide, and we talk about the effects that it has on our cardiovascular system, but also our overall health and well-being, our hormonal system, our just all kinds of effects that it has on our health and well-being. Could you talk a little bit about what exactly is it? What does it do? And why it's so important in our health? Let's start with that.
Sure. Thanks for asking, Mike. Well, so nitric oxide is a signaling molecule that we actually secrete from our endothelial lining of our blood vessels in our body. So we were made to secrete it. And we secrete it when we laugh, actually. There's a passive amount that's secreted in general, but when we laugh, we actually increase the production of it. And what nitric oxide does in a nutshell, it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory signaling agent that is activated whenever there is extreme stress or our internal environment shows that there are insults from infection and other toxic agents. We really get sick when nitric oxide decreases in its overall volume. And also, nitric oxide is created from a non-essential amino acid, L-arginine and L-citrulline. And so this is important because it goes from L-arginine goes from non-essential as an amino acid in our bodies, which means we don't need it to survive, to essential when we are in an inflammatory state. And again, that inflammatory state can be everything from an infection and sickness to physical trauma to even emotional trauma. And so this is an extremely important molecule that if you look, there are over 1,000 papers written about nitric oxide and what it can do in the endothelial lining. And so really important. And so the Cardio Miracle plays a central role in that theme because this is a product that in 2020 it was published and it with the Ohio State Nobel candidate, Dr. Malinsky, and the owner, the founder of Cardio Miracle, actually went to him and said, "I want this tested because I believe this product as a superfood can be very helpful for people who have different issues with inflammation as well as their vascular systems, their heart, their cerebrovascular system, and other systems in terms of blood flow, based on what the literature says." And what was interesting, Mike, is Dr. Malinsky said, "Okay, fine, I'll assess this and I'll get back to you." And he was fairly dismissive until they ran the tests on this combination of the nitric oxide and the other ingredients and found that it sustained nitric oxide in a cell culture for over 20 hours. And why is that a big deal? Because if you look at the prior literature in cell culture, nitric oxide outside of the body would be sustained for minutes. So now you have something, nitric oxide, sustained for 20 hours or more, and you have a combination of the nitric oxide, L-arginine, L-citrulline. In combination, those work at the level of the endothelial level, so at the vascular level, and when they do, they generate more nitric oxide, L-arginine synthetase. And so when that happens, now you're getting an infusion of nitric oxide, plus you're encouraging nitric oxide generation. But here's the thing, Mike, that's really fascinating. And No one knew this was going to be a big deal, but Dr. Malinsky said to the founder, John Hewlett, you can't be this smart in terms of what you've created, because the negative byproduct, peroxynitrite, was so low, and yet the good product, the nitric oxide production, was so high that they actually had to create a ratio to measure these levels along with the arginine and nitric oxide, which means that you're getting a huge amount of nitric oxide, but you're not getting what would be the negative metabolic side effect, the peroxynitrite, or one of the three forms of nitric oxide. So eNOS is what we're talking about, endothelial, and there's iNOS and nNOS. So the iNOS is the inflammatory and the kind of the bad side. So just as an introduction to nitric oxide, it's an inflammatory signaling molecule. It's naturally occurring. And in this particular study in 2020, we found some really interesting findings that really make it quite interesting in its mechanism.
Okay, so Cardio Miracle is more than just taking supplementary nitric oxide.
Yeah.
Because from what I'm hearing from you, there's a synergistic relationship between the ingredients that are in the product in order to have the positive effect on the body to counteract the negative effects the body is experiencing through what? Environmental stress, poor diet, toxins. So there are a bunch of us here listening in the audience tonight who have lived lives of taking 200 supplements a day of 42 different categories and kind of burning out on that. So could you explain what's in the product, how it synergistically works to provide the benefits that people are getting from it? Could you go into that a little bit?
I sure can. And as a matter of fact, what I'm doing is I want to get right actually to it here. I've got see if I can see this just so you guys, and so basically what's in it is the nitric oxide that we mentioned, and over 50 ingredients that are mostly organic fruits and vegetables. So, and it's the combination of those, as you said, that work synergistically
Okay.
to allow the nitric oxide to be sustained for so long. And the ingredients work synergistically in here. And so some of those ingredients, it has your standard vitamin A, your vitamin C, your calcifitrol, which is your vitamin D. It's actually 4 times the recommended daily allowance, which is a huge deal that we can come back to. It has vitamin E, vitamin K, thiamine, riboflavin, niacin, B6, folate, B12, biotin, pantothenic acid, zinc, sodium. And now here's some really interesting point. Here's some other glutathione is in there, acetylcysteine, L-taurine. And then you get into the arginines, as we mentioned before, are in here. There's a fruit, there's spinach, there's broccoli, broccoli sprouts, carrot root, sweet potato, apple, fruit, strawberry, sunflower. There's pine bark extract, as well as grapeseed extract, hawthorn berry, alpha lipoic acid, and black pepper extract. And so just to kind of name some of them. So it's, and I'm sure you'll tell them where they can go to take a look, but it's fascinating because this combination has allowed me to go from multiple supplements to now I only take the Cardio Miracle as in a powder form, a scoop in the morning in water, and then at night, and then I take an omega-3 supplement, and that's it. That's my regimen. So it's been a huge help.
Well, let me share with the folks here that website. Folks, write this down. because we have a special, the folks at Cardio Miracle, at the request of Dr. Avery and some of our friends there, have set up a special offer for folks who are attending this event. If you go to cardiomiracle.com/healthy days, if you go there, they have a special package that's just if you go to this site, and you're getting this information from the show, cardiomiracle.com/healthy days. You're going to get 360 serving pouches plus a 30 single serving sticks that are great to travel with. And I always love taking powdered supplements that come in sticks. So I know I can take 4 or 5 of them with me if I'm traveling for a few days. The big thing here is you're going to save over $200. So there's 360 serving pouches. That's 180 servings. So that's what, like a 90-day supply right there. Then you're getting 30 single serving sticks, right? And you're getting free shipping in the US. So folks, they do ship to Canada, but Canada requires a special shipping charges and such. So go to their cardiomiracle.com healthy days, and you'll be able to take advantage of that. And again, this is a courtesy to us. I have no personal affiliation with the company. However, I've been taking the product now for the last 90 days, and I've noticed a difference. I've noticed a difference in my sleep, my energy, and my blood pressure. Believe it or not, my blood pressure has gone down. Um, and I'm not taking any blood pressure medication anymore. That's a big deal because blood pressure medication was making me very, very woozy, dizzy, and I'm no longer having those side effects. Again, we're not making any claims on the show that this is going to get you off of blood pressure medicine. It's going to, cure everyone and have people in wheelchairs get up and start walking. We don't make any of those claims, but it makes sense that combination of synergistic ingredients that's there to help with the production, the natural production of these essential, parts and nutritional values and things that our body needs to survive and be healthy. It makes sense to have that coming from natural organic sources, scientifically proven ingredients, and scientifically combined. Again, it's a dangerous thing to go out and say, oh, I'll just buy a bottle of this, I'll buy a bottle of that, I'll buy a bottle of this. You don't know what's actually in those capsules. You don't know whether they taking a bottle of that, a bottle of this is going to be synergistic. They could work against each other if they're not in the right, the ingredients are not in the right amounts, and they're not coming from the right sources. So again, not making any claims, not trying to sell you anything. I don't sell anything on this show, as you know. But I am sharing that with you because it's helped thousands and thousands of people. And again, cardiomiracle.com/healthy days. Do yourself a favor, check it out. Back to our questions. May I call you Avery?
Please.
Okay, Avery. Could you, you're a neurosurgeon, right?
Yes.
But this product has tremendous cardiovascular benefits. But if the cardiovascular system is working properly and blood is circulating and oxygen and nutrients are going to the brain, doesn't that create a benefit for our brain health?
Mike, a huge benefit.
Ah,
This affects all of the microvasculature in your entire body. And we've looked at, and we know that when toxins build up in the brain, our risk of stroke is higher, our risk of cognitive diseases are also higher. And so our body needs the fuel to handle those toxins and to rid those toxins. And so this is really interesting. The nitric oxide actually helps to work at the endothelial or the inside lining muscular level at making the blood vessels more pliable. And also that affects what's called Poiseuille's equation in terms of the flow of blood through the blood vessels. And so whenever you can get more blood to the brain, that's going to be a win because there's more oxygen. And in the Cardio Miracle, there's like lion's mane, for instance, which helps with mental clarity, and then the glutathione and the astrogen, and there's so many other ingredients that are extremely helpful. And I tell you that what got me really interested in Cardio Miracle as a neurosurgeon was a colleague of mine introduced me to Cardio Miracle because I was having cramps in my calves when I was operating. Some of my surgeries, I'd be standing and they may be 10 hours, 16 hours long. And they introduced this, and because of the change in blood flow and the anti-inflammatories, like my cramps went away. And I said, this is wonderful. So it's not hurting, it's helping, it's nutrition, great. It's fuel, it's superfood, got it. Well, I had a patient, Mike, who had a non-healing foot ulcer that was pretty large. And I was seeing her for a back problem. Her family, just said, we're really concerned about this non-healing foot ulcer because we've been working on it for 2 years, not getting any better. And I said, well, listen, maybe it's a nutritional issue. Try Cardio Miracle. And in 3 months, that large foot ulcer kind of whittled down to the size of a pinhole. So, Mike, now I had objective evidence that this is extremely helpful for healing and especially the blood flow and the microvascular supply. So from that point on, I really got into the science behind it, and I saw it help people, which makes sense. I mean, if your body is made to heal itself, but it needs the appropriate fuel, and so this is a superfood that can do that without having some of the side effects of other agents that may not be as natural.
Another thing that I noticed from taking the product, my cravings for sugar and starch have diminished, which is a big deal for me because they're a major source of inflammation for me.
Yep.
So how is that possible?
Well, it's fascinating. I mean, you're getting some of the good sugars, if you will, from the fruits and vegetables, the anti-tumor effect, the turmeric effect. There's sweet potato root in there as well, the grapeseed extract, and so all of those together are giving your body what it needs. And for me, for instance, Mike, recently I lost about 20 pounds over about 3 months. And before that, I had a pretty huge sweet tooth my whole life. And I realized that is there a nutritional defect or absence in the diet? And I realized I wasn't getting enough protein and I wasn't getting enough of some of these anti-inflammatory components. So my body, or at least I thought my body craved sugar. And it turns out that when I changed, I went to the Cardio Miracle, I started to have less of a sweet craving. And then when I added the protein, my protein, I was taking about 60 grams of protein intake, and I really need about 80. I went up to about 160 grams a day with lots of water in the Cardio Miracle. And then I dropped weight, but I gained energy. My sleep was better, and my craving for sweets really decreased significantly.
Could we talk a little bit more about inflammation? I shared with you in our phone call in 2012. I went in and found I had a 70% blockage in my lower descending artery.
Yep.
I had been on Lipitor for years. I had been on cholesterol medication. I thought I was eating a healthy diet. I didn't eat a lot of fatty food at the time. When they did the scope and went through my system, and I did the MRIs and I did all the imaging and everything. it was this one spot that had this blockage and that they had to put two stents in, but nowhere else in the body was there any clumps of, cholesterol and calcium. It was one spot. Now, as a as a brain surgeon, but also someone who understands the cardiovascular system, in situations like that, is it not inflammation that can attack the walls of our arteries and blood vessels? And then the body says, oh, I have a problem. I'm just going to slap some spackle on it. I'm going to slap some cholesterol on it. And I think what happened was it slapped a little spackle on it, and then it chipped. That spackle chipped, injured the wall of the blood vessel, and then the body came in and we need a lot more spackle, 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 spackle. And then I developed that 70% blockage. Thank God, literally, I had this intuitive feeling I need to go to the hospital. And it wasn't until, I did the stress test, I had the blood work, I had everything. They said, we can't find anything with your heart. I said, there's something wrong. So finally, they did the scope, and that's when they found the 70% blockage. But if I had just gone with the tests, and I was still taking my cholesterol medication, I was still, eating the way I thought I was supposed to eat. But what I wasn't doing, I wasn't really educated enough about the things that cause inflammation in our bodies. And then as I start to research, not only do heart problems occur, but inflammation is a major cause of, in many people, things that can lead to cancer. Inflammation can lead to, triggering all kinds of other disease. So can you educate us a little bit about inflammation and about how this product helps, and also a big concern that's going on out there today. And again, we're not making any claims of one thing versus another, but there's a lot of concern right now with people who have relatives who have cognitive disorders. My mom has Alzheimer's. My uncle had Alzheimer's. All my aunts had Alzheimer's. Um, and they were all on cholesterol medication. They were all on statins. And statins do good things, I'm told, to people. But can you talk a little bit about this inflammation thing and then about cholesterol? Because you told me that a large percentage of our brain is cholesterol, so it doesn't make sense to get rid of all the cholesterol. Are we getting rid of too much cholesterol, and then is that causing cognitive problems? That's a lot of
Yeah,
questions. I
no,
apologize. But
no, it's fine, Mike. And I think you're spot on. I think these are really important questions and topics that we need to discuss today. They're relevant in all age groups. And I would say, first and foremost, inflammation is something that is the your immune system and your inflammatory system work in kind of a mirrored pattern. And whenever your immune system is working, then the good part of your inflammatory system is also working. Okay, it has value in terms of restructuring blood vessels and other organs. The issue becomes when your inflammatory side of the immune system begins to overproduce. And when it overproduces, it leads to the analogy that you use, which I love, which is the spackle in one area of the wall of your blood vessel, and then some, and that falls off, and now more. And so you're literally creating kind of a fibrin clot, or kind of like the sore that you'd see if you scrape your on the outside of your skin and you develop a sore. It's similar but inside. And so I think it's a very appropriate discussion. And so the reason that happens, the inflammation, which is everywhere. So inflammation can be everywhere. The immune system and the platelets actually signal or are adaptogens to tell the immune system and basically the inflammatory system what to do and where to do it. based on insults that can be both physical, that can be toxin related, but can also be emotional, which is really fascinating. The body sees or can create inflammatory signaling and produce more inflammation, either due to a physical trauma or an emotional trauma, which is fascinating. But roughly about 10 to 40% of our cholesterol is actually derived from outside sources. Okay. Our body creates cholesterol and needs cholesterol not only to create the brain, because the brain is basically almost 90+% cholesterol, but also we use cholesterol to make our hormones. And so when the cholesterol is reduced, as you were mentioning, it doesn't address the root cause of cholesterol formation. And your analogy was spot on. What we see in the cerebrovascular system in the brain and the rest of the vascular system in the body is that basically, if you can think about it like your Teflon coating on the inside of your blood vessels gets weakened in certain areas, oftentimes because of where there are bends in the flow of blood. And so the flow will increase or decrease in certain areas, and there's more turbulence. And that turbulence leads to the breakdown of the blood vessel wall and or the Teflon coating. And then that's when your body attempts to repair the area, but over time, it's putting more fibrin clots and more cholesterol on, and now you get the narrowing or the stenosis that we talk about. So the cholesterol story is a fascinating one. And now we're looking at what happens when you're overly aggressive in treating cholesterol. And there may be a signal of benefit for helping in the cardiovascular space, although that's recently been challenged. But for sure, it's not a good thing for the brain. If a person wants to develop Alzheimer's or cognitive diseases, be aggressive on lowering cholesterol, because you're basically suppressing your body's ability to generate more brain tissue. And so as a neurosurgeon, now maybe my cardiology colleagues might want to argue back and forth a little, and I understand. And they might say the heart's more important, and I would say the brain. But respectfully in that conversation, to protect the brain, I would say cholesterol is extremely important and valuable. And I'm not a fan of artificially lowering cholesterol, because I know without a doubt it's going to affect brain function, and it's going to make it harder for the brain to regenerate in those times where we have mini strokes or we are exposed to toxins through environment or diet or even emotional toxins, because those will activate your immune system, just like toxin that you ingest or inhale in a very similar fashion. So all that's really important, and that's what brings me back to the Cardio Miracle as a superfood, because if you look at the ingredients, when you go to the website that Mike recommended, you'll see on the website the ingredients. Many of the ingredients are anti-inflammatory that work on different components of the inflammatory system in a natural way. So, and again, they're synergistic, just like the nitric oxide, which is one of the strongest anti-inflammatories. These other ones, the lion's mane, the coenzyme Q10, everybody knows about that. And the glutathione, there's so many others, the taurine, the N-acetylcysteine. So they're all in there, and many of these occur naturally in certain fruits and vegetables anyway. So that makes it a win. And so in a nutshell, having good blood flow is so important to the brain and the heart. And here's an illustration. And just briefly, we talked about the fact that people can go on to have dementias. Well, there was a study done looking at what happens to what are called the neuro stem cells in the brain, and do these stem cells replace tissue that has been damaged due to a trauma or toxins or inflammation, because these stem cells should be replacing damaged cells, and therefore we really shouldn't have Alzheimer's, we shouldn't have these cognitive disorders, these dementias that we're having. So the theory was that older people have less stem cells that that replace bad cells in their brain than younger people. So there was a study done looking at those who died acutely, both in the younger population and the older population, but had no chronic diseases. And then they sliced their brains up and looked to see if they both had the same number of stem cell population, both the younger who are less likely to develop dementias and the older who are more likely. And the theory was, or the hypothesis was, there's got to be less stem cells in the older population, and that's why we see these degenerative findings over time. Turns out the answer was there were the same number of cells. So then if there were the same number of cells that can replace bad cells, how come the younger population was less likely to develop these dementias compared to the older? And it turns out the answer was blood flow. There was significantly less blood flow in the older population due to exactly what you mentioned, the spackle in the wall, the narrowing of the blood vessels, cholesterol formation, more inflammation, more dehydration. And now we talk about even being overly aggressive with some of the blood pressure medications. And again, everyone's different, but it's fascinating that our brain need a certain pressure head of blood to be able to regenerate and help to create an environment that's going to be able to handle some of the toxins that we're facing nowadays.
Could you tell us a little bit about nutritional causes that you're aware of, or lifestyle causes that may be contributing to the buildup of plaque on the brain? I've been doing some research, and there's been a lot of talk now about plaque. I know there's plaque on our teeth if we don't brush right and not go to the dentist, but what is this relationship of plaque on the brain now?
Yeah, well, so it's fascinating. So in neurosurgical or neurologic terms, we talk about amyloid. And so amyloidosis is the name for that plaque. And we see this that when amyloid forms, and it's basically, again, the combination of the inflammatory and the immune system working initially to help to put spackle in an area of turbulence, but then it can kind of get out of control. And so then the blood vessels become friable or more crumbly, and that can lead to aneurysm formation, which is a bleb on the blood vessel wall. That can lead to narrowing or stenosis, which can lead to stroke and less blood flow and less oxygen to certain areas. So we know that part of the reason that amyloid forms is because of the toxin exposure. We also know that inflammation in general causes that or encourages the formation of this amyloid. And so that would be, again, traumatic, toxic thoughts, believe it or not, as well as diet and lifestyle. All of that together leads to this inflammatory pathway getting out of control. And so one of the things that happens to us as we age, for instance, we have more of a craving for carbohydrates. So I call it the tea and toast syndrome that many people have. And what happens is you lower your protein intake and you lower your antioxidant intake with fruits and vegetables and so forth, and the broccoli and other good phytonutrients. And so then that plaque formation and ultimately the amyloid will then form, and you don't have a good mechanism by which to clear the plaque, and then that goes on to lead to other problems.
Wow, I appreciate you getting into that kind of depth and explanation. It makes so much sense. But there are a lot of things we do to ourselves that don't make a lot of sense. And having something that's simple to help our body. And again, in my conversations with you, you're a proponent of the fact that given the right tools, our body can heal itself. Our body was designed to be healthy, and that it's our responsibility to give it the right tools, the right ingredients. So I want to share that website again for folks who are watching us both tonight and over the next few weeks. If you go to cardiomiracle.com/healthy days, you're going to get 3 60-serving pouches. So that's 180 servings, plus 30 single serving sticks, which you can put in your briefcase or purse or pocket or whatever you want to do there, plus free shipping in the US, all for only $230. That's crazy. When you break that down, the cost per month is incredibly low. You're going to save over $200 if you use this special offer that the folks at Cardio Miracle and Avery were kind enough to extend to us. Cardiomiracle.com/healthy days. Please take advantage of that. And we're going to, at this point, you folks have been really, really patient. I know you have questions, so I'd like to open it up for questions. I am watching you, and if you raise your golden hand at the bottom of your Zoom screen, I will call on you and have you ask your question. You can unmute. And then also, folks, and there's a lot of folks now on Facebook. Thank you for joining us. If you put your question in the comment section, I will ask Dr. Avery your question. So let's start with Virginia. Virginia, thank you for being patient. What is your question?
Thank you. Just a couple of questions.
Sure.
I have Sjogren's syndrome, and the doctors just say, "Oh, you get it," and I'm trying to find out more, and I'm sure it's inflammation from what I've read. And I'm wondering how this product would help that, number one. Number two, if you could talk a little bit more about the addiction, how it can help addiction. I heard you say that in the beginning, or somebody said that. So those are my two areas. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. So regarding Sjogren's, it's, when you have the dryness, the dry eyes, and, it's kind of almost an autoantibody kind of disorder. So it's an autoimmune disorder. And and then also even affects the connective tissues. There's so many aspects to it. And I would say that the Cardio Miracle can help because whenever there is an imbalance of moisture, there's usually a reason. Your apocrine glands are the glands that will secrete, oils, and then your tear ducts in your eyes. And so there's a reason that those tend to turn off. And one of the things that I'll point out, and the reason why I think this is so important, and the founder of Cardio Miracle, John Hewlett, who has an amazing story about avoiding a quadruple bypass by going natural with these ingredients, and his body was able to clear all of his blood vessels in his heart, and he's doing really well. But the ingredients in nature are such that when we're getting the right ingredients, our body does so many amazing things. And here's the example that I would mention. Our bodies, our skeleton actually is replaced every 7 years. Our entire skeleton, we replace every 7 years, roughly 7 to 10 years. So there is a process of building and breaking down an egress, if you will, a certain flow. Well, if you don't have the right clearing mechanism, then you develop kind of skeleton tumors, for instance, and other problems. It gets backed up. Well, the same is true for our inflammatory pathways. When those are not being regulated appropriately, then there is a backup which can lead to a lot of these problems. And so that's why I think, just as a baseline, a first do no harm position would be to make sure your body is getting all the nutrients and the fuel that it needs, including the vitamin D3, which is another big piece that's in the Cardio Miracle that regulates your immune system, and especially your natural killer cells in terms of cancer. And we can get into that. That's an interesting discussion. But in either case, super important. And lastly, in terms of addiction, we were just talking about craving and sugar craving. And what I found is that when I have all my tank of all these fuels is filled, then my craving for sugar begins to go down. And I think it's a misdirected craving. I think like my body wants sugar, but it really needs healthy sugars and it needs a protein, right? But it's quicker to get a cookie or a donut or something that's quick, right? And so as a result, it's partly cultural and partly, my body's craving. And so I've noticed, and Mike has noticed a difference in the sugar craving after we've been taking Cardio Miracle. And again, it's a superfood, and I think it gives us the fuel that we need, and our body can then focus on other areas in the reparative process. Sure.
Is that helpful for you, Virginia?
Yes. When I said addiction, though, I was thinking about family addiction with drugs. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that could help too, because I think people, or my daughter who takes drugs is lacking nutritionally.
Yeah, and if I could, I think that's a great point, and I apologize, I missed that question. So you're right. The reason, there are many reasons socially, but as to why we have different forms of substance abuse. Now, in our brains, neurochemically, it's because there's usually a lack of dopamine production, a neurotransmitter that helps us with our joy and so forth. Well, it turns out that one of the reasons could be that we're not getting enough of it. And so then we add our social environment to the lack of those stores, and we find something, maybe mistakenly, by mistake, that will increase dopamine in us, and then we tend to stick with that thing, whether it's good or bad. And so, I hear what you're saying, and I can tell you that mechanistically, that makes sense, and that's why having your fuel sources adequate can start to displace some of the cravings that our bodies truly need, and that would be one.
Great. Is that helpful, Virginia? Okay. I have a question from someone on Facebook, Avery. She asks, is there a healthy amount of nitric oxide? Can we have too much of it? And then her second question is, what would they feel? What kinds of changes would they feel if they were to start taking Cardio Miracle?
Great questions. So I guess let's, before the Malinsky study that John Hewlett sought to really criticize his own product. I mean, he knew it was helpful to him subjectively, but he didn't stop there. He wanted some scientific confirmation or some criticism so that he could continue to improve on it to help people. He knew that there was a problem, and if he was having problems in hospitals and with other things, that others would, and his heart is so large, he really wanted to go after it. So when he went to Dr. Malinsky, and please look him up in Ohio, he was a Nobel candidate, or Nobel laureate candidate for the study of nitric oxide, found out that in fact that this was a complete game changer as it relates to the inflammatory side of things. And I'm sorry, Mike, I totally lost the question. If you can repeat it again, because I've been down
yeah. The question was, is there a healthy amount of nitric oxide, and can you have too much?
Yes, got it. So the healthy amount, and what I was getting to was in that study, they created an L-arginine nitric oxide ratio. And prior to that study, there wasn't a thing to measure the amounts of nitric oxide relative to this non-essential amino acid that makes nitric oxide. So from this study that was generated through Mike's questioning the strength and the efficacy of Cardio Miracle, this measurement came out of it. And so the measurements show that many people were low with a nitric oxide and L-arginine, especially when in areas of when they were sick or had extreme inflammatory conditions in their body. So there wasn't an actual amount of nitric oxide in general measured in the body besides a certain ratio, because our bodies are dynamic and we secrete nitric oxide based on our mood, based on how much toxin load we have in our bodies. So that's a bit of a moving target. And in terms of having too much nitric oxide, I think that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge to push to having too much of it, especially when you have it in a natural form. So when it's in more of a natural form or in a synergistic form, as for instance in the Cardio Miracle, your body is able to adjust the right ratios. And what I mean by ratios is there are 3 isoforms of nitric oxide in our bodies. There's the eNOS, which is produced from the blood vessel wall. That's the standard. And then there's nNOS in the nervous system. And then iNOS is kind of a downstream, more of a byproduct, if you will, the nitric oxide that actually promotes inflammation. So that's kind of the bad one at some point. And so we know that you don't want too much of the bad one and you want more of the good one. And so what this does is it promotes more of the good nitric oxide and less of the bad. But there isn't a specific amount or too much, because your body adjusts as it sees the environment. It senses the environment at the level of your endovascular wall or lining, and then it makes adjustments in terms of absorption or production of more of it.
So the second question about how would somebody feel from taking it, I mean, that's an individual thing, but across the board, what have you found for people who start taking the product?
Yeah, what we found is that inflammation causes people to feel oftentimes more sluggish.
Yep.
So the opposite tends to occur when we have all the fuel that we need in this superfood, and then we tend to feel more awake. We have more energy. We feel a bit lighter in our heads. The nitric oxide in here, along with the beets, which is also in this supplement, really helps to increase energy. And so what people tend, and many people tend to have better sleep as well, which is fascinating because there's less inflammation in the brain. And Josh Hewlett, who is one of the executives also in Cardio Miracle, he notices that that people pretty soon get used to it until they stop taking it. And when they stop taking it after 3 or 6 months, then they go, wow, now I understand what it means to have that baseline of anti-inflammatory and other nutrients and have all of my tanks full compared to when I don't have it. So that's an interesting tester that people can do, is try it for 3 or 6 months. And then if you end up stopping it, you'll be able to tell yourself what difference it is you're going to feel based on which tanks are going to lower in your particular instance.
Now, you mentioned something about beets. I mean, you cannot watch a TV show and not have a commercial about a beet supplement, whether it's a gummy or a powder. So apparently, beet powder and beet extract have a positive effect on our hearts. Could you tell us a little bit about the reality of that?
Oh, sure. I'm glad you asked. Now, I can tell you in general, to start, some people will use beet juice or beet powder to replace coffee. And, because it does give you a natural high, and you feel there's more energy. One of the things that John was really thoughtful, Hewlett, he was thoughtful about, was considering that and saying, how can we synergistically make the nitric oxide bioavailable? It's readily available as soon as it gets in your system, and also sustain it for longer. And so beets have nitric oxide, but the issue is that in this formulation, the nitric oxide is almost 10 times or more the amount that you can put in a capsule. So the absorption and the raw amount is less. You'd have to have like 70 pills of capsules based on volume and efficacy or how well it works, compared to in this powder form where all of these nutrients are mixed together, so they synergistically increase the amount and the length that it stays in your system and is active. So it's a fascinating product when you really get into the science of it.
Now, one of the things I like about it, one of the many things I like about it is the fact that you take it with water. You mix the powder with water and it tastes amazing. But it forces me to drink more water because I need to make sure that I have the full. I use 16 ounces of water, with the serving of the powder. Can you talk a little bit about how it works with water and the power of hydration, for the product to work well, and also just in general? Can you talk about hydration and why he chose to make a powder versus a bunch of pills or gummies?
Yeah, and Mike, great point. So in general, for water to start, we need minimum of half of our body weight in ounces of water per day. So if you're a 200-pound person, at minimum, you need 100 ounces of water. That's not including if you're in an environment where you're sweating or working out or what have you, but at minimum 100 ounces a day. 60% of our body weight is made out of water. And so in our cells, so it's extremely important in terms of the electron transport of energy and electricity in our body. So without it, you're not going to do well. The cardio miracle is key in water because it makes people want to drink water, because some people don't like the taste of water, or it's an acquired taste. So now you're putting in this amazing organic fruits and vegetable blend. And so it kind of tastes like a Kool-Aid. And Mike, you might remember, I know we're kind of aging ourselves.
Oh, I
That was a
remember.
big deal, right? Kool-Aid
I
was like
remember.
this big deal. But now it's like the best of both worlds. It's like a V8 on steroids, if you will, good steroids, but it's kind of a sweet tasting V8. And so it's absolutely amazing. And so that's important. But also John understood that how can we help humanity, as he calls it, hope in a glass, by giving them something that they would like to drink. So he really worked with his formulator on the taste side of things, because this is great for kids and adults and seniors. And at the same time, dealing with their basic lack of nutritional stores. So it's, again, a brilliant move to say he could help the whole world, at least in terms of their nutritional balance, by doing this, and at the same time encouraging water intake at the same time. So I take, in 16 ounces in the morning, I mix it up, and here's the other thing: the nitric oxide is released in at least two different pathways when you take it with water. The first is you mix it up, and I swish it in my mouth, and so the nitric oxide will absorb through the gums and the lining of my mouth, and then secondarily through my GI tract when it's swallowed. And so that's super important. And again, hydration is everything. If you want to get sick, just stay dehydrated, okay? Because the inflammatory system will go haywire when your oxygen and your hydration is not where it needs to be. It's kind of like an engine block without oil, right? That thing's going to break in a short amount of time if you're not giving it the fluid and the oil that it needs. So very similar here.
Great. Wow. You mentioned this is good for children. I was going to ask you, is this good for children, and how can this help? I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and how can this help build a powerful foundation for her health for the rest of her life? Because we all know the food that we are eating, is dramatically depleted in nutrients. The commercial food that we can get. I grow my own hydroponic vegetables, and I grow my own blueberries, organic, fruits, vegetables. But not everybody has that opportunity. So you're saying then that we could really help our next generation by giving them a foundation with this type of supplement.
That's exactly right. So Mike, what we know is that in essence, this is basically a superfood, right? So if I gave my daughters um, apples and sweet potatoes and broccoli and grapes, right, and carrots, those are all fine, right? And so, but the concentration of these is almost like a bowl of each one, which is really cool. And that's why John was brilliant in making this in a powder form versus a capsule. Secondarily, what we recommend is for young kids to maybe start with like half of what we take and see if they like it or not. And if you like it, you can put it in a shake or a smoothie. There's a whole bunch of ways to take it. And as you mentioned, one of the concerns we're having now is diabetes in our children. It's just out of control. And also the metabolic syndromes that we're seeing in our kids and the childhood obesity. So with something like this, they're more likely going to take it than not because of the taste. They're more likely than not to get good hydration when they drink it. And they're more likely than not to get a whole host of good fruits and organic vegetables when they take it as well. It's kind of like, you give your kids, you might remember, Mike, like the Flintstone vitamins, right? When we were kids, I mean, those were great. I would sneak those vitamins just because I like the taste, right? But in either case, the point is that it has a good taste to it, but it's giving kids the basic foundational fuel that their systems need to grow, and including their vascular system. And their vascular system supplies their nervous system. And when their nervous system's working and their blood sugar is regulated, by the way, then that decreases the childhood diabetes, which I wanted to mention that Cardio Miracle has a huge amount. If you look, vitamin D3, in the active form, it encourages the generation of it, and it houses it. If you look on the back of the ingredients list, which is extremely important to producing hormones, which again leads to our insulin intolerance versus regulating sugars in our blood for the kids, which is important, as well as our immune system. And also it encourages autophagy. So you can actually fast while you're taking Cardio Miracle, and it will encourage this. And autophagy is basically when you intermittent fast. That is to say, all of us have break fast, right? We break our fast in the morning when we eat. So when we fast 15 hours or more, then our body will act, the inflammatory and the immune system will act as kind of a garbage man, if you will, and get rid of the bad toxins and proteins in our body when we give it a rest. Well, Cardio Miracle actually encourages and upregulates autophagy to such a degree that Mike, that John, myself, and many others will take the Cardio Miracle on a 10-day fast, and we get the results of fasting like a water fast, which is absolutely fascinating. And we get the autophagy that we experience as when you're intermittent fasting. It encourages that. So it's an interesting concept that we know to be true as well.
Now, it's recommended to be taken with water, but I like to mix, like protein powder with yogurt and make kind of like a pudding. Could I add the Cardio Miracle to that pudding?
The answer, sorry, Mike, the answer is we encourage it in smoothies, totally fine.
Okay.
Orange juice, other juices, totally fine. But we just want to watch when there's a large protein load,
Okay.
because then the protein is going to try to compete with the absorption of the Cardio Miracle.
Got
So
it.
what we recommend is if someone has a large protein load, like if you're going to eat a steak or a burger or chicken or what have you, that you wait about an hour before or after you have that protein load, and that way it's just not competing with it. I mean, it's safe for you. It's not a problem that way because you have broccoli and you have, sweet potatoes all the time with your steak, right? So it's not like it's a problem that way. It's just you're competing with the absorption. And so we want this to have the best option the best outcome by absorbing better and not competing with large amounts of protein.
So best an hour after a high protein load meal, or what about before a meal? What's the
Same.
best?
So either an hour before or after. I mean,
Got
when
it.
people get up, yeah. So in the morning, for instance, after you've done your your intermittent fasting or what have you, go to mix it up in water or another juice, drink it, and then wait about an hour or so, and then go for whatever protein you want. And same thing at night. We'd recommend either an hour before dinner, let's say, or an hour after.
Avery, what else can we do nutritionally to support our body getting maximum benefit from the product?
Sure. So one is the way you take it. So we talked about not competing with the protein, the water, important. The swish and swallow, really key. This has a dual mechanism action. So again, absorbs in your mouth and then in your gut lining. That's going to be important. Also, I would say that along with this is going to be your rest. That decreases inflammation. And I think that's a big piece. Most people may not get 7 or 8 hours. And so you want to make sure that you do that. And I would also say for brain health, and again, this is my plug as a neurosurgeon, is your omega-3 fatty acids. So, your cod liver oil, a whole host of different fishes, really key for anxiety and other cognitive problems. As a matter of fact, if you go to the website and study, we were published in Combat Stress magazine, looking at PTSD and what happens when you introduce Cardio Miracle and you introduce and the nitric oxide, and the effect is extremely helpful when you have that right balance of all of the fuels that you need, that it really helped with the anxiety, the stress, and blood flow. And so that was a huge winner. And also it actually helped with ED in this paper because of the blood flow. So you're taking basic nutritional superfood, and it's making a difference in all these areas. And I would say, Mike, as a neurosurgeon in allopathic medicine, I got 1 hour of training in nutrition at all, okay, which was nothing. And so, but with that, I thought nutrition and naturopathic, holistic, okay, that's all foo-foo, that's great. Let's get to the papers that are double-blind randomized studies looking at pharmaceuticals, because that's where the strength is. And then going on to, say, surgery. And I made this oath of first do no harm. And I thought first do no harm was give people less pills or give people surgery that's going to be less risky than more risky surgery. But I had no clue about the benefits of nutrition and how that really can help decrease or mitigate our what we're seeing in terms of chronic diseases, because our body then has all the fuel that it needs to address a lot of these health issues.
Could you talk a little bit about storage of the product? Is it sensitive to heat? Is it sensitive to what should we be doing to make sure we're protecting the product?
Great. So it's actually it's in a wonderful package. Here's kind of one of the packages. These pouches are amazing because I can pack these away pretty good. So in and of itself, room temperature is completely fine. You don't have to freeze it or cool it, and it's actually very stable. I'm not a fan of ever having this in hot areas for long periods, but it's a very stable product.
Great. Okay, I want to give out that website again before I forget. So let me pull that up. And folks who are watching now and later, if you go to Cardio Miracle, that's all one word, cardiomiracle.com/health Healthy Days. You will get 3 60-serving pouches. That's 180 servings, plus 30 single-serving sticks, which are just mini pouches, plus free shipping in the US. They will ship to Canada, but there's a cost for the shipping. So here in the US, it's you're saving over $200. The cost for all of that is only $230. And remember, $230, divide that by the fact that you're getting 210 servings. Is my math right? 180 plus 30, 210 servings. So that's what is that? 105 days.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
Right. So 105 days, that's over 3 months worth of product for only $230. Divide 230 by 3. That's crazy. It's crazy inexpensive for the benefit that you're getting, the quality of ingredients that you're getting. So please, for your own health and well-being, cardiomiracle.com/healthy days. And again, I have no relationship with the manufacturer. I do use the product. So far, it's been great. The people who I've talked to use it. The ingredients speak for themselves, an amazing group of ingredients. And I don't believe that Dr. Avery Jackson would be putting his name and reputation associated with a product that did not have the highest level of efficacy. And I can't say anything more. Your body is the laboratory that will prove, the benefits of something like this. But we're all living in a world and living lifestyles where we are tremendously depleted in all of the ingredients that are necessary. And as I said before, this is helping me not have 100 bottles of stuff, taking hundreds of pills a day. I can't do that anymore, and I won't. But this is a great help and a great solution. So please do yourself a favor, give it a try. Avery, you wanted to say something.
So I just wanted to mention 2 things, Mike. One is these are those sticks packs. So each stick is basically 1 serving. So I would take one. So, and the reason these are really cool is because if you're a traveler and you've got bottled water, you can just sip a little bit of the water, take this, pour it in the bottle, shake it up, and you're good to go, and you're on your way. So I like this for convenience sake, number one. And so it's 2 servings. So 2 of these sticks get you through the day. The other piece is that when you talk about the savings, it's less than about $1.24 per serving. So it gets really cheap, especially when, as you said, in your directions, when they go to the site and they buy the 180 serving, and it's the subscription, which means it's a recurring every cycle. Then that's a huge help, and then it's kind of on autopilot, and just when you're done, it comes to your door again.
Okay, I appreciate that. And folks, again, the proof is in the taking, proof to yourself. It does come with a guarantee, does it not?
It does. Yep, I think this is it's a 60-day money back guarantee.
Wow, 60 days. Okay, so they're putting their reputation and they're putting a guarantee behind the product. So they obviously have a lot of confidence in the product. But again, the purpose of tonight is for education. And I think I know I've been very well educated, and I've spent over 50 years studying health, nutrition, natural health, and I learned quite a bit tonight. And Avery, I really appreciate what you've shared with us, and definitely appreciate the folks who have made this product available. Are there any other questions before we wrap up and call it an evening. Folks in the Zoom audience or folks in Facebook, here's your last chance. Yes, Virginia.
A couple of questions.
Sure.
Yeah, on the how long is that offer good for? And on the auto returns that you get, is the price the same? Going to be the same every, say, like 90 days? I think it is.
Well, I can let me ask the last one. Well, if you go to the website, you'll see when you go to the 180 serving, it'll give you the instructions so that it'll be consistent. Once you choose, you kind of select that going forward, then that's what it'll be for sure. And so I apologize. It was a special offer for Mike and for his viewers. So I'm not quite sure about that part. But I do know going forward, it's on that subscription. And so it'll be the same every time it comes to you after that. Yeah. Whatever that is.
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay, I see it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
You're welcome. This is the actual site right here.
Okay, yeah. All right.
So do yourself a favor, go to that site and educate yourself and take advantage of the offer. I just did last night, got myself set up so that I don't ever run out of product. And I encourage, again, if this sounds like something that makes sense for you, it's kind of hard to argue. But if it sounds like it makes sense to you, give it a try. You have nothing to lose, and you have everything to gain. Again, I do not sell the product. I have no financial relationship at all, but I care about you. I care about you. I care about your family. It's the whole reason I do this show. And even just do the research, give it a try. It has a money back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. I did feel a difference, as I said, really in the first month of taking the product. And I was actually kind of shocked when I was in the doctor's office. I hurt my back, and they always take your blood pressure. And I was shocked when they took the blood pressure because I was saying, "Oh man, I stopped taking the blood pressure medicine," and and I'm in the doctor's office. The white coat syndrome is going to kick in, and when I saw what my blood pressure was, I was really shocked. So again, that's my results. Yours may be different, but if you look at the science, you look at the ingredients, you're going to find that there's a lot of things that we talked about tonight that are great opportunities and possibilities for you. And let's face it, your health is your greatest priority. Your health is your best investment. And again, all the things we try to do on this show are to help you make educated decisions, to expose you to a world of wonderful people like Dr. Avery Jackson, like the folks behind Cardio Miracle. And that brings me to my last slide that I wanted to share with you here. And that is this podcast. Okay, our meetings on Sunday, we have at least one guest a month, sometimes two, sometimes it's a guest, and then the other meeting during the month is a workshop. I would like to encourage you to help me out by going to my YouTube site. That's MikeDeLucaPodcast.com. If you go to that site, MikeDeLucaPodcast.com, if you simply subscribe to the YouTube channel, does not cost you anything. If you subscribe, if you watch any of the recordings and you like it, or you like the YouTube channel itself, if you make a positive comment, all of that helps YouTube recognize this podcast and lists us higher up when people are searching for information about integrative health and personal development. And that's what this show is about. It's about integrative health and wellness, personal development. This show is my gift to you. For those of you who've been with me over the last 6 years, you know I do this because I love you. I care about you. I care about your health. I care about your families. Um, if I have a lot more yesterdays behind me than tomorrows, but I think taking products like this will give me more tomorrows. But the reality is the legacy I want to leave. And again, I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and when she gets old enough, um, and if I'm not around, if she asks my son and daughter-in-law, so what was that crazy pop all about? What are the things that he did? What mark did he leave on the world? They could say, "Hey, I'm gonna play you some videos, and you'll see what he did." So that's why we do what we do. I know in his heart, that's why Dr. Avery Jackson does what he does, because he cares. He cares about serving. He cares about helping. Um, like me, he has a spiritual dedication and a spiritual commitment to help and serve. And he recognizes that health is both a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual process. And when all of those things are in line, we have the ability of living a more healthy, happy, productive life. So that's why he does what he does. That's why I do what I do. We didn't have time to go in depth about Dr. Jackson's book, but I'm going to have him back because we need a whole show to talk about his book. On my Facebook announcement, I talked about the book, The God Prescription, and thegodprescription.com will give you more information about that. But I will have him back soon so we can dive more deeply into where faith, spirituality, health, nutrition, and emotional health and mental health all intersect. And that deserves a whole nother show, maybe two. But we'll see how far we get. So with that, Avery, thank you so much. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for the work you're doing with Cardio Miracle. Thank you for all the work you have done with your patients and their families. You are an incredible human being, and we honor you tonight and thank you. Folks out there, thank you so much for being here. I know that you take the information you get from this show and you share it, and that's service to others as well that can help them. So, any parting words, Avery, before we sign off tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mike. It's a real honor. And I would just say that this is an important show, and investing the time in our spiritual, emotional, and physical wellness is vital, and especially more so today than ever, and for our families. So this is a legacy that we can impart with our families and our community and our friends. So it's been an honor. Thanks for having us. Thank you for me.
Okay. Well, it's an honor for us to have you here with us. We're definitely going to have you back soon. I have two more things that you're involved in that I want to share with our audience, but they each deserve their own show. So, but thank you again. Folks out there, thank you for joining us. You know I love you. I care about you. I'm grateful that you're here. And I will see you at our next episode of Integrative Wellness and Development Podcast. Until then, have a good night, have a good week, have a good life, and we will see you next time.